Michael Hudson at iHeartMedia.com. iHeartMedia is the largest media company in the world. Grow with us. We're looking for you. We'll pay you what you're worth. 504-679-7300 or email me, Michael Hudson at iHeartMedia.com. iHeartMedia is an equal opportunity employer.
Get ready as your New Orleans Pelicans do it big in the Smoothie King Center this Sunday, 5 p.m. versus Russell Westbrook and those Oklahoma City Thunder. It's the race for the playoffs. We need every seat in the Smoothie King field. Get your tickets now at Pelicans.com. But get there early. The pregame block party tips off at 3:30 p.m. with live music and inflatables. Plus, the first 3,000 kids 13 and under receive a Pelicans jersey t-shirt courtesy of Rouse's Market and Tasty Cake. Tickets are limited and available now at Pelicans.com. Do it big today.
More trouble for tech. Both Amazon and Tesla stocks have been slammed this week. Tesla because of a credit rating downgrade and an NTSB investigation into a fatal crash involving Tesla's self-driving features. And Amazon after Axios Media reported President Trump is obsessed with the company and has wondered aloud if there's a way to go after it with antitrust laws. You won't see Cosmopolitan magazine at the Walmart checkout line anymore. Walmart is relegating it to the store's magazine section because of its racy headlines.
But now, as Walmart takes a stand against Cosmo in the context of the Me Too movement, stop the violence! Some loyal readers say reducing the visibility of the magazine undermines its influence on women's liberation.
I feel like women should be able to express themselves how they would like to. I kind of like that women kind of get to be sexually free. You know, we're in such a world with just like so many double standards where it's okay for men, but it's not okay for women.
If you don't want to see those magazines or don't want to like contribute, then you don't pick it up.
NBC's Jolene Kent reporting fingerprint scans are now available at Delta Sky Clubs across the country. Travelers will now have the option to get into the airport clubs with the fingerprint scan instead of having to show a boarding pass or a membership card. Taco Bell is moving from the drive-thru to a store shelf near you. Beginning this May, Taco Bell branded tortilla chips are rolling out to grocery and convenience stores nationwide. And the Carl's Jr. burger chain's effort to honor film director Steven Spielberg is falling flat. It wanted to rename its new $1 char-broiled slider the Spielburger. Spielberg himself tweeted this video response.
They're pretty good, but I'm passing. Cease and desist. Can't do it. Sorry, guys.
Carl's Jr. does have a licensing agreement with Spielberg's new film Ready Player One. In a statement, the chain just says it's excited Spielberg actually responded and that he said he likes the sliders. Consumer and Business News, Joe McConnell, NBC News Radio.
That's what everyone's saying, yeah.
Dunc and Holder back at you on this Good Friday, a beautiful day in downtown New Orleans, Louisiana. Jeff Duncan alongside Clyde Verdun and Dave DeCorbier. And we are broadcasting, as usual, from the iHeart Studios in New Orleans, Louisiana, the greatest city on the planet. And it is that today. It's a beautiful day outside. We got the Crescent City Classic tomorrow in town. A lot of Easter festivities, as usual. Clyde, are you going to get an Easter basket this year?
No, I don't think so. I'm just going to probably go out and get some Reese's eggs like I normally do, maybe some pecan eggs.
You better get them now, man. They always sell out, dude.
Yeah, it's true. So I'm probably going to do that after the show. After the show, I'm going to go get some Reese's eggs, some pecan eggs.
You're going to go on an Easter egg hunt?
Yeah, to very different yeah, exactly, to very different shopping stores, indeed.
You know, we need to do it. Let's do a Dunc and Holder poll. Can you take care
Here
of this
we go. Poll time.
Favorite or best, maybe best Easter candy?
That's a good one. All right.
I'm not sure what the
obviously,
although I will vote for Peeps. I'm a huge Peep guy.
Okay, so here's what we can do. So obviously Reese's eggs, Cadbury eggs.
Oh yeah, Cadbury eggs are excellent. Is candy corn an Easter?
No, it's not. That's Halloween.
Which ones? The ones with the good caramel stuff, or the gooey ones that look like dead egg embryos in there?
The gooey ones. Oh, yeah, the ones that like. And you always have to like take the white carton on it, and you got to like peel it off, and then you want to like you don't want to get your hands too sticky on it.
And then
so
you get foil in your teeth. Or,
absolutely.
Or it hits your crown, and then you get shocked.
Yeah, and it's the worst. It is the absolute worst.
Well, we need to limit down. What are our four options going to be?
Well, I think one should be other, so people can tweet at us and say what it. So, I mean, obviously, when you think Easter, obviously you're going to think Reese's Eggs, Peeps, and Cadbury eggs, and the fourth one can be other.
It seems like too many eggs. Reese's eggs and Cadbury eggs. That's duplicate.
Okay,
is
Reese's
candy corn? Is that?
No, that's Halloween, dude. What did I tell you again? That's Halloween.
That's what I'm asking.
That's Halloween.
What's the other option?
I mean, maybe just like chocolate bunnies.
Those robin eggs.
Yeah, it's true. The little malt chocolate. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Let's do those.
All right.
I have a feeling the malt eggs are going to come in way behind.
All right, talk without breathing for the next 2.5 minutes so I can do this.
Well, I'm just telling you right now, I'm a huge Peep guy. Matter of fact, I'm so weird and disturbed.
You're telling us this now. Finally, breaking news. Hit the sounder.
I like stale Peeps. In other words,
that's odd, Jeffrey.
That is really weird.
I like sitting them out and letting them get a little air for a few hours, and they get a little. I don't know. The marshmallow gets a little hard.
By the way, can't stand Peeps. Can't stand marshmallow cream. Those things. Can't stand Goldbrick eggs. Can't stand. Don't like any of it.
What's wrong with you?
Just don't like any of it.
You don't like candy?
I like candy, but I've never been a candy guy. I mean, I've never been like a super sweets person. I mean, I do
Who's not
I do
a candy
sweets.
guy? Like, who doesn't like
I
candy?
mean, I will tell you that going into gas stations, I had a pretty decent one. I mean, back in the country where we had to walk barefoot on the dirt roads.
Did you all just go and
get into the P-Rog to go up and down the street?
You all went and tapped some cypress tree and just
so we can get pecans.
Sorghum, molasses.
Exactly.
That was your form of candy.
Yeah, we licked sap off trees. That's what we did in Morgan City. We licked the sap off trees.
Good upbringing you had there in the P-Rogue down in the bayou. Well, look, we got a wide open show today. As you can tell, it's off to a flying start.
I put shenanigans in the I put shenanigans in the Twitter in the post for today's show for a reason.
All right. Well, we got a wide open show, so if you want to join the program, the number to call always is 504-260-1280. We're going to talk some sports at some point in the next 2 hours, and one of the topics that I want to throw out, it was sparked by a comment in the NOLA.com comment stream on my mock draft, which dropped yesterday. We talked yesterday about my selection of DJ Moore, wide receiver from Maryland. That's who I projected to the Saints, and I'm sticking to that, by the way. I think that's a good chance of happening. But in the comment stream, someone brought up, hey, why not trade up? And you talked about that yesterday on the program. This could be a year the Saints make a trade. And so I want to take that further today. I want to ask our listeners and anybody out there that's interested, wants to join the program, if the Saints did make a trade, if they did go up, say, to the top 10 of the draft, or if they just wanted to make a trade to get a defensive end or a pass rusher, which is obviously their number one need, who would they trade? Assuming there's a player on the roster that would be traded in addition to a draft pick. In other words, what player is most tradable? Obviously, they're not going to trade Drew Brees. They're not going to trade Cam Jordan. Who would be the most tradable player on the Saints roster? Who would you be willing to move to maybe get something in return? Because I think that's what it would take to get up into the top 10. It would take a player and probably the Saints' first-round draft pick, or it would take a parcel of draft picks. But who on the Saints roster would you be willing to move? One person that stands out to me, and I hate to just act like I'm discarding players, but one person that makes a lot of sense is running back Mark Ingram. You already have a young superstar in the wings in Alvin Kamara, and Mark Ingram is under contract for one more year, and then he's going to have to get paid again. That's the time that you move a player like Mark Ingram, much the same way they did with Brandon Cooks when they traded him to New England a year or two before they were going to have to pay him a big contract. That's how it works in the NFL in the salary cap era. I'm not saying that the Saints need to get rid of Mark Ingram. He's a very good player. He's a Pro Bowl running back, very productive, has been through a lot here and kind of turned the corner in his career and become a good every down back. But the reality is the Saints aren't going to pay him and Alvin Kamara down the road. So I think he's a guy that could possibly be dealt down the road, maybe even this year. Who knows? I'm just throwing that out there. That's a player that I think of. But who else do you think might be on the trade block for the Saints? Because let's face it, they're going to have to do something to get an edge rusher, and it's probably not going to come in free agency now. That market is tapped out. And frankly, I don't see a lot of impact prospects in the draft at number 27. You might get one in the top 10 or 15, Bradley Chubb from NC State or Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio. Those are the top 2 edge rushers. But both those guys are highly valued and probably going to be off the board in the top 10 or 15 long before the Saints get on the clock at 27. So is a deal potentially the way to go to bring in a player? Is there an edge rusher on another team you think that might be available? That seems kind of far-fetched because most people need pass rushers in this league, in this pass-happy era that we're in. You need people that can pressure the quarterback, and you don't want to give up on those guys. But there might be somebody out there that a listener or a fan knows about that I'm not thinking of. So I'd like to hear your thoughts if you want to join the program. Again, 260-1280. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Pels Cavs tonight. Big game up in Cleveland. Looks like Tyronn Lue is going to be back with the Cavaliers. The coach has stepped away for a while for medical reasons. He's going to be back, but I'm not sure he's coaching tonight. I think he's just going to join the team. He won't be on the sidelines coaching, but that's a big game for the Pels tonight. They're in 6th place currently in the Western Conference standings. Cannot afford to drop too many more games here. They are trying to avoid that 7th, 8th seed and what is certainly probably destined for a one-and-done playoffs appearance if they get opposite the Warriors or the Rockets. Also, yesterday, both college baseball teams here locally, Tulane beat South Florida 3-2. Got a nice pitching performance there. Tulane now 12-15 on the year. Trying to get back to 500 might be a tough task for Tulane in the American Athletic Conference. It's so competitive. And LSU with a big win down in Baton Rouge beat Mississippi State 10-1 on a weird Thursday night game. I can't quite figure out why that was Thursday.
It's not necessarily weird. I think obviously if you're seeing with Tulane and LSU, this is not a surprise. A lot of teams that they can get it. Specifically, it's 2 reasons. Obviously, first reason is because it's Easter. A lot of teams are going to be trying to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday if they can, or Friday, Saturday if you play softball or other sports. Saturday doubleheader or Friday doubleheader. It's not uncommon, but also at the same time, if an SEC series starts on Thursday, it's because it gives the SEC Network obviously a Thursday night live game to do, and then they're able to transition to another game on Friday and another game on Saturday. So it gives the SEC Network inventory. So it's television in nature.
Yeah, and I tell you, there's another story I wanted to talk about today and see if anybody has any interest in this. Craig Steltz, former LSU safety, played at Rummel High School. We have a story up on NOLA.com right now. He's suing the NFL for brain injuries, and I think that's interesting. He's basically claiming that his years of play in the NFL, he played 6 seasons with the Bears, was released in 2014. He's claiming that the NFL is responsible for some of the problems he's having medically, symptoms of brain injury caused by the repetitive, traumatic, subconcussive, and or concussive head impacts sustained during NFL games or practices. This is probably not the first or last player to sue the league. There was a huge settlement, as we all know, back in 2014, $1 billion settlement the league had, but Craig Steltz did not participate in that because he was still playing, but I'm not sure where that's going to go. I'm not sure if we're heading for another round of lawsuits or not, but what's the accountability for the player? He signed up for this sport. There's a lot of questions. It's a very complicated situation. Is Craig Steltz accountable because he decided to play football and knowing the inherent damage that it can cause? Do you feel like he's owed something by the NFL because of this? I'm not sure which way I fall on that, Clyde, because I feel like at some point you know what you signed up for. You know it's a violent game. And if the NFL has been negligent, which I think they have come forward and admitted, when does their liability or culpability end as far as with the players?
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's a question that I think most fans who care about the game, who have been following the game long enough, I think it's a question that we are confronted with more often than not when we're watching the game. And I think no more prevalent than Ryan Shazier's injury is one of those ones that kind of I think shakes you a little bit because when you see guys take these hits sometimes, and then for him a little bit stronger than most, and obviously all not all signs, but it seems clear that there's a possibility, it's going to take a while, that he can regain full use of his legs and be able to walk and be able to run and be able to go on a productive life is what everybody in watching the game wants. But I think we do have to take into account multiple things. And I really think that this conversation that we'll have later on in the show will come down to not necessarily personal preference, but I think it falls on so many different lines that we talk about it. We talk about how fast the sport has gotten, how quicker the sport has gotten, but we haven't really talked, and the upgrades to things like helmets and trying to change how, play calls and tackling, and you no longer use your head, which you shouldn't have been able to do in the first place, obviously, but really, really regulating that. But there's so much on the line. There's so much on the line here. And for me, it really starts at the grassroots level. And if you read some of the stories coming out around the country about states and cities making it illegal for kids below a certain age to play tackle football, and everybody has to play flag before they get to a certain age, and then they can start playing tackle football to extend that and to lessen the head trauma for kids going forward. There's too much right now at stake for so many, and that gets into, I think, for me, a more socioeconomic conversation, because the kids who have the most to gain from playing football in the future for themselves and for others, it's not going to be a game. It's not going to be something that is going to deter them early. They don't have any other choices. But for the kids like Craig Steltz, who I'm not saying Craig Steltz is different by any means, but it's a little bit different for him. I mean, he was a stud athlete in a lot of sports. He just chose football because football obviously is the one that you could get paid the most in among, or is the most watched and the most attended and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's so many different varying levels that go into it that go beyond just the game itself and the violence of the game, but other factors that these players also have to deal with when going into these sports.
All right, we'll talk about that after this break. We'll also talk about who the Saints might have on the trade block. Who would you trade, and what would you trade for if you were running the New Orleans Saints trying to bolster their pass rush, maybe their wide receiver position? Is there somebody on the team you think is movable? And if so, what would you trade for? That's the question we've got today. Wide open program on this Good Friday. Make sure you participate. 260-1280 is the number to call. We'll be back after this break. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
I south of Detroit City, pulled in this country kitchen. Try their brand of barbecues, I said finger licking.
Alvin Gentry went off.
You can't guess on a foul.
But I think he should have went a little bit further than he did.
Call it both ways.
It's been something that I think should have happened a long time ago. It's almost three blind mice that are officiating games.
Eric Asher, weekdays, noon to 2.
You get a strong opinion each and every day.
Before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu, where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First line's $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Free phones require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to 1 Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
Hi, Eric Asher with celebrity chef Scott Craig of Katie's. Scott, you have to be excited about Katie's expanded second floor seating and private dining rooms.
Yeah, but how about my vast local sports knowledge?
You know sports, but shouldn't we be talking about your award-winning Sunday brunch?
I'd rather talk about the Saints and the Pels.
How about your award-winning pizza or daily specials?
How about them Saints?
I admit you have a great take on local sports, but what about Katie's award-winning menu?
Okay, folks, I invite you to dine at Katie's. Eric and I don't have to brag about the food at Katie's. The food speaks for itself.
Katie's open 7 days a week in the heart of Mid-City at 3701 Apathy.
The durability of tile, the beauty of wood, it's easier than ever to have both with Wood Look Tile. The Home Depot makes the wood look floor you want affordable with Ansley Amber Wood Look Tile starting at $1.89 a square foot. It truly is the best of both worlds, durable and beautiful. Ansley Amber Wood Look Tile starting at just $1.89 a square foot. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Selection varies by store.
Amazon is looking into launching bank accounts for teens. Bloomberg says the tech giant has held discussions with JP Morgan Chase and Capital One with the idea to create a checking account type service that would make it easier for Gen Z customers to shop Amazon's site. Amazon could be trying to fill in the gap as those under 18 usually can't open bank accounts by themselves, and if they can, there's a whole lot of added on fees. Apple Music now has a section dedicated to music videos. You can find it in the Browse tab of the Music app, and once there, you'll find selections for new music videos, exclusives, curated playlists, videos by genre, and spotlights on particular artists. Twitter now lets you live stream in the future. A feature called Timestamps will allow anyone to tweet a live video that starts at the exact moment they want it to. When sharing a live video, you can use the scroll bar to select the time you want your followers to start watching. Pinterest adding human beings to its basic discovery feed, which will now show recent pins from the people and boards you're following. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Duncan Holder back at you. Jeff Duncan, Clive Verdane, David Corbier on Good Friday in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I was negligent a little while ago. I forgot to mention the UNO Privateers got a win last night in baseball. Beat Texas A&M Corpus Christi in the Southland Conference 13-8. So a good win for Blake Dean and his program as they continue to try and fight in the Southland Conference. And another news item. Looks like Kenny Vaccaro is actually finally going to get on a visit here, but he's unsigned. And that surprises me, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a guy that at one time was bordering on Pro Bowl caliber play.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just the safety position because Eric Reed is also still out there, right?
Yeah, he is.
So you got two kind of big-name safeties that have played well. I think they might have been in the same draft as well. But both unsigned, both unemployed right now. I'm sure they're going to land somewhere sometime soon, but has to be disappointing to Kenny Vaccaro and his camp because he had a chance a couple of years ago, I think, to maybe parlay a really good season into a big contract. Didn't pan out. Did not have a great year last year. Was in and out of the lineup for different reasons. And now he's out there unsigned, and the market has to be pretty bleak right now as we're about 3 weeks into free agency. So it'll be interesting to see where Kenny Vaccaro eventually lands, but it obviously will not be in New Orleans.
Yeah, and that actually brings up a question from one of our YouTubers watching, which, by the way, if you want to watch today's show, which you watch every day, you can, New Orleans Saints on NOLA.com. We have the live stream up so you can see Jeff and I sweating in here because it's warm, but it's a beautiful day still. But that's a question by Dr. Bill Yoshi. The fact that none of our free agents have signed, do you think any of them come back at reduced rates? And that's the biggest thing specifically about Kenny Vaccaro makes me wonder, do you think if Kenny Vaccaro possibly has a different tune in terms of how this season went, in terms of saying, which I think we could all tell that there was going to be some kind of split between the Saints and Kenny Vaccaro. However, could that have been alleviated if it had been to the point of saying, look, I realize it's a contract year. I realize that, right now things are a bit tenuous, but I really feel like there's a lot for me to do here, things like that, blah, blah, whatever. Could that relationship between he and Sean Payton, whatever it may be, have been a little bit better to the point of saying, okay, look, Kenny, we're going to bring you back for another year. We can bring you back for another year. We can work through some of these things, and if we get through a good year, then we go forward. Or at the very least, again, you get a full season, a full healthy season, and then someone else is willing to pick you up after that.
I think they moved on because if you remember after one of the games this year, and I can't remember what game it was. I know it was late in the season. I think it was after a loss.
Yeah.
And Sean Payton made a reference that it's the same players over and over committing the same mistakes and penalties. And to me, that was a jab at Ken Crawley, number one, and Kenny Vaccaro, number two. And when I hear things like that from Sean Payton, I've covered him long enough to know he dropped that strategically, and he reaches a point. It reminded me of after the L.A. Rams game a few years ago. It's actually the St. Louis Rams when they played them, and he said he'd seen enough of Charles Brown. He benched him in the middle of the game at left tackle, and Charles Brown never saw the field again. Ended up moving on. I think he got traded. When Sean Payton makes those decisions like that, you're done. And I think we saw that with Kenny Vaccaro, and I think they're trying to replace Ken Crawley as a starter as well. Or not replace him, they're trying to upgrade that position.
Right.
Because Ken Crawley led the team in penalties. I mean, he had a ton of penalties, had a huge one in the Vikings game. It was like a 50-yard penalty. Those penalties cannot be overlooked, and so I think he's trying to upgrade his team in as many ways as he can. Let's go to the phone lines. We got Adam on the line. Adam, what's going on today? Happy Good Friday.
Happy Good Friday, guys. Hey, I was listening yesterday, and I know it's not like Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, and it wouldn't be a fun first round for any Saints fans. But I like the idea of them trading down and maybe getting maybe a second round, and 2 second rounds or a second and a third. I noticed Sam Hubbard is not projected to go until the second round unless somebody takes him late in the first, and there's the tight ends, they don't start going off the board until the end of the first. So, I mean, if you can get you a couple second-round picks or a second and the third, I don't know what the first is worth, and you can at least, mark off 2 of the top 3 that Sean Payton was talking about as far as wide receiver, tight end, and defensive end. So I just want to know what your opinion was and if you guys think that's a pretty good idea or not. Love the show, and I'm going to hang up now. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks so much.
I think he makes a great point, and I said that yesterday. I'll say it again today. I don't think you can use history as a barometer for this year's draft. Every year is different. Circumstances are different. The board's different. Everything about this draft is different from it was a year ago. The Saints are in much better shape roster-wise than they were a year ago because of the draft they had. So they're deeper at a number of positions, and they also feel better about certain depth charts. So, as I said, 8 prospects are not going to make this team. So trading down inherently is probably adding more draft picks, but I think you eventually can trade down, as Adam said, maybe take a Sam Hubbard early in the second round, and then pick up maybe another second-round pick, and you can then move around with those other draft picks, as we mentioned, and target some players and basically manage the draft. That's what the Patriots have done for years. By acquiring all this draft capital, you can move around. I think this could be a year that they do that, or I think they could trade up. The problem is they don't have a second-round pick to use. They'd almost have to use a future pick to have enough capital to move up high enough to get maybe an edge rusher.
Jeff, I was surprised. I had a good feeling that, especially when I go and do my recap posts at the end of the day, I usually have some good feelings. Some days a little bit harder than others, but I knew that the question of being able to use that 27th round pick maybe to move somewhere in the draft would be a pretty good one, but I was surprised at the number of people specifically commenting on it, talking about it on the story yesterday, talking about on the post today about it, because I guess it feels like, the headline that I used was, questions abound, but no easy answers for pick number 27, because the one thing, the unanimity of it was that no one could come to a consensus on who should go at that pick. But the one thing it seemed like people were really keying in on was the fact that, well, why don't you use that to try to bolster your team with trading down or trading up? Because then, and I think you made a great point about it yesterday, if there's no way with this roster, because if you can make a 2 deep out of this roster, it's going to be tough to bring in 8 guys, 8 players in this draft that could either make the roster, not sit on the practice roster, actually come in and contribute, trading that pick, moving down, getting into the second round, and then taking some of these later round picks and moving those and strapping those together to get maybe further up into the 3rd and 4th round and really making these picks quality. And from what I saw through just some of the comments from Twitter and Facebook and the actual stories yesterday was the idea that it feels like that option makes the most sense, specifically when regarding how the team chemistry is now and being able to project forward who could be at any one of these spots a better pick than saying, let's have 8 guys and see what happens, or let's get 3 or 4 and then go from there.
Well, one of the people that's been projected, one of the players projected to the Saints at 27 is Louisville quarterback Lamar Jackson. He had his pro day yesterday, and the Saints were present. They had offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael and quarterbacks coach Joe Lombardi in person at Lamar Jackson's workout. Now, here's what I would say about that. That's obviously showing some attention to Lamar Jackson, but Jair Alexander was also there, the cornerback from Louisville, who's a player that I think the Saints could use, a really young, talented cornerback opposite Marshawn Lattimore. I could see that being a fit. And they also have a left tackle, Jaron Christian, who is a mid-round prospect that I also think would be a good fit for the Saints. So they're there to see other players, not just Lamar Jackson. But the fact that Sean Payton was not at the workout, he was at actually Hayden Hurst's workout, tells me a lot. I think this whole Lamar Jackson thing is a smokescreen. I don't think the Saints are going to draft a quarterback. I said that to Fletcher Mackel yesterday. It makes no sense unless it's somebody they really love that they think is the future quarterback, a Baker Mayfield or somebody that they think is the heir apparent. It makes no sense because you've got Tom Savage as your veteran. You got to have Tom Savage on your team. Otherwise, you have no experience behind Drew Brees. I guess you could live with that. Brees hasn't been hurt in 12 years. You could roll the dice that he's not going to get hurt again. But do you want to go into such a critical season in such a competitive NFC race with no experience at backup quarterback? That's what happened to the Packers this year.
Yeah.
And Brett Hundley just really struggled, and the Packers season was sank. I don't think you want to have that kind of situation. So I think you got to have Savage on the team. And then what do? Do you get rid of Taysom Hill? He's on the active roster. You can only have 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. You can't have 4. It's too many. So you're going to let Taysom Hill go, the guy that you really like as a developmental prospect. You're going to try and slip him through waivers and get him on the practice squad. That's not going to happen.
Well,
so why would you draft
really
a quarterback?
like him? You really like him, though, but we haven't seen what he can do at quarterback. I mean, we basically see him do everything else except for go under center. And, I mean, no one was watching, or at least no one was really watching Packers preseason games last year to see what Taysom Hill did before he joined the Saints. And then he joined the Saints, and he's punt specialist, defensive end, whatever. And at this point, we don't even know what we have with him. So it's one thing if we go into the preseason or go into camp and then he shows what he has. But right now, I don't think we can just automatically say, well, Taysom Hill's going to be that guy, and we'll just go from there.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion on the Dunc and Holder Show, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
When I talk to other guys, you think they're on my tail.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Zurich Classic.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz on your Good Friday today, Passover tonight, and also Easter Sunday. The holiday weekend is looking great. Today, we are expecting sunshine to return, partly to mostly sunny skies by the afternoon with a high of 73. Tonight, it will be beautiful. Cool on the North Shore, some upper 40s there, low to mid-50s south. Saturday, sunny and 76, and Easter Sunday, more sunshine, a bit warmer at 81 with no mention of rain. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
It's a new way to party with friends under the umbrellas or on the new sky deck watching great golf. Enjoy fresh oysters, fried seafood, and cocktails. The Acme Oyster House, right on the course at the Zurich Classic, April 26th through 29th. For tickets, call today or visit ZurichGolfClassic.com.
You know, before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First lines $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Brief runs require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to one Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
O'Reilly. Defend your vehicle from harmful elements and restore shine with Armor All canister wipes. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, pick up Armor All canister wipes for $3.99. Easily remove dirt, dust, and grime with Armor All canister wipes on sale for $3.99 at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
If you're a pro, you don't buy a little of this or that. You buy a lot of this or that. And at the Home Depot, you save even more. Save up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products from top brands like 3M, Loctite, and Liquid Nails. As a pro, you work hard for your money. You shouldn't have to work hard to save it. Up to 15% in bulk discounts on select pro-grade products. Only at the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. See store for details.
Ever since I met you, girl, you've been on my brain.
Learn what our insiders know about your home teams. Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Duncan Holder. Gosh, I butchered Larry's name. He's been off a week, and I can't even pronounce his last name.
No one, y'all don't tell him.
Who are we talking about again?
I don't know what his name is.
Yeah, this is the Duncan Verdan show, right? D&V, right?
He's going to have all grown back by the time he's had a week off.
Yeah, that's true.
On Country Fried Good Friday, March 30th, talking Saints, Pelicans, and I want to switch gears a little bit here, and we'll also talk Easter candy because I'm just totally dispirited that the peeps are getting drubbed in our Duncan Holder Twitter poll.
And rightfully so.
I don't know what's going on with people.
Rightfully
peeps
so.
Are clearly the best Easter candy. It's not even an argument. But I want to talk Superdome renovations. I had a story that we posted this morning about the latest step that state and Saints officials are taking to try and look at renovating the Superdome. We know that people are wondering why they need to renovate it again. This is another major round of renovations. The last time they renovated was way back, after Katrina. That's 13 years, 12 years ago. And these buildings, especially buildings built in the 70s, even though this thing is basically a new building for the most part, except for the steel bones, they need constant upgrading. And the Saints and state want to continue to add to the building to continue to increase the revenue streams for the team. And that's just the lay of the land in the NFL. That's how it works. And I think this will eventually happen, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. The state right now is cash-strapped. We all know the problems Baton Rouge and Governor John Bel Edwards are having right now with the budget, and the state legislature is not going to approve any money for a Superdome renovation now in the foreseeable future, maybe. But I think the challenge that state officials, and when I say state officials, I'm talking about the Louisiana Stadium and Exposition District, LSED, the Superdome people, they, along with the Saints, have to come up with a way to finance this new renovation, if they indeed are going to do it, on their own. They're not going to get capital outlay money. If they do get some, it's not going to be much. And I think it's time for the Saints to step up. Frankly, they've been enjoying this building pretty much for free for 4 decades. And they need to start ponying up some money. If they're going to renovate the dome again, they haven't put much money over the years into the building. I know they put up some money. I think it was about $25 million of the $40 million renovation back in 2016 when they added the new video boards. Saints put up some money there. They put some money back in 2006 in that renovation, along with the NFL, put up some money, but not much, relatively speaking, when you look at some of these other teams and other cities. Frankly, I think the renovation of the building of U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, the Wilfs and the Vikings put in hundreds of millions of dollars towards that project. Hundreds of millions. Arthur Blank, hundreds of millions of dollars toward Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Relatively speaking, Saints have not ponied up nearly that that much. They're going to have to step up this time because the state doesn't have the money, and the Saints and the state together, the Superdome is going to have to find some money within their budget to make this thing work, or else it's not going to take off.
Right. And Jeff, just to your, to the credit of your story of just the in-depth nature of it, or at least what this means going forward, I think we have to really talk about specifically what this next round is going to do, or what this $400,000 diagnostic architectural survey of the building means going forward, and how this kind of starts the entire process for looking long term at what to do, not necessarily to the inside of the building, but the outside of the building as well.
What this thing's going to do, Clyde, is basically they approved $400,000, the LSED did, for Trahan Architects based here in New Orleans to go in and do this kind of digital imaging. Basically, it's like an MRI of the building. They're looking through the walls, trying to find where the pipes are, where the beams, all these kind of things. It's setting the groundwork. It's prep work for an eventual renovation down the road. So what they're doing now is basically just pre-planning for renovation. That's how expensive these things are. But down the road, they will want to eventually renovate the Dome. I don't think there's any appetite to build a new stadium. We're talking about $1.5 billion is basically the going rate for a new stadium, and that's on the cheap end. If this renovation were to take place, it would probably be $300-400 million. So you're getting much more bang for your buck by renovating this building. And let's face it, it's in a great location. Everybody loves the location. It's an anchor at that foot of Poydras Street. I don't know what the Saints would do otherwise. I don't know where you could put another stadium to build a new one. So
exactly. I mean, really, honestly, let's be let's be completely honest. The Saints, the Superdome, and the city are now dealing with watching a $1 billion stadium go up in Minneapolis. A $1 billion stadium is about to come online in a year and a half, 2 years in LA. That's going to house two teams. And then you're going to see a possible $1.5 to $2 billion stadium pop up in Las Vegas. That's what the Saints are dealing with now. This is what we are dealing with currently as a city in terms of regeneration, upkeep, and updating a facility that is still good. Because let's not make any bones. The Superdome as a whole, with what they've done to the inside, has been exceptionally key to continuing the process of keeping it new and modern and fresh for a city that can very well host major events. And that's what we're talking about going forward. You want to get college football national championship, you got to do it. You want to get Super Bowl again, you got to do it. You want to get the World Cup, other random games, things like that to come to the city, you got to do it. Because there's nowhere else in the city you can do that unless you want to start talking about trying to find tracts of land in a state that is losing land at football field rates every year, saying you want to move out to New Orleans East because they've got some land out there in Jazzland. You're no longer in New Orleans. You're in New Orleans East.
All right, let's continue this discussion after the break because I got some more thoughts on this as well. And we'll come back to you, John, after this break as well. Thanks for being patient and holding on. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
It kinda makes it hard to get a good grip. I drop your troubles off at the conveyor belt. I hand you a ticket to go get it yourself. At the biggest crane, you got a lot of luggage in your name.
Oh, smart speaker on my desk. Who is smarter than all the rest?
A stable genius you may be, but those who win the smart money are surely more wise than thee.
You have up to 16 chances a day, every weekday to win $1,000 on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I'm Dave Marley, president of Marley Drug. Are you taking Viagra? Now you can get sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, in generic 20 milligrams for $2 per tablet. That's a savings of $50 per dose. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy delivering generic sildenafil to your door. For more information on sildenafil, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-853-6375. That's 800-853-6375.
The 4 for $4 from Wendy's has a lot of fans because it's a deal that gives you a sandwich plus 4 nuggets, a small fry, and drink, all for just $4. But now the 4 for $4 has more variety than ever with 8 sandwich choices.
I'm loyal to the double stack.
I'm Junior Bacon Cheeseburger through and through.
I pledge myself to the crispy chicken sandwich.
I'm loyal to my hunger.
Whether you're loyal to one sandwich or all 8, the Wendy's 4 for $4 has a sandwich for you. So try them all and pick your favorite. Now that's deliciously different.
At participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Hi, this is Bob with Wholesale Auto Group, the pre-owned car, truck, and SUV center on Veterans Boulevard, just past the airport. At Wholesale Auto Group, all we sell are great pre-owned vehicles. Shop online now at 123getauto.com, 123getauto.com.
The huge success of the Roseanne reboot is leading TV executives to examine how they address what's being called an underserved audience of blue-collar Trump supporters. According to Media Insider Deadline, the ratings bonanza ABC'd enjoyed with the Roseanne premiere took the industry by surprise. The sitcom was watched by more than 18 million viewers and is the highest-rated comedy telecast on any network in nearly 4 years. Meantime, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said President Trump was so wowed by the show's success, he called Roseanne Barr to congratulate her. Barr has been a long-time Trump supporter. Cardi B and Tinder teaming up for a new competition titled Swipe Off. The dating site and rapper recently launching a nationwide college competition that will acknowledge the most right-swiped school. The winner will be announced April 18th, and its prize will be a Cardi B concert to close out the school year. The Coachella Music Festival amping up its security in case of a mass shooting. TMZ reports law enforcement working the festival are being trained to stop an attack like the one at the Route 91 Harvest Festival in Las Vegas last year. They will reportedly have tourniquets and other medical equipment on hand, also be supposedly metal detectors and pat-downs. Coachella takes place over 2 weekends next month in Indio, California.
Oh, make me over.
Courtney Love owes the IRS big time. Multiple reports indicate Kurt Cobain's widow has an unpaid 2016 tax bill of more than $568,000. That's entertainment. Jennifer Pulsoni, NBC News Radio.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, and we're going to go to the phone lines. John, thanks for patiently holding on through the break.
What's up?
What's going on, John?
The question y'all asked, now, like I said, I'm a real, true, diehard Saints fan.
Yeah, Dave told us during the break.
Now, the question was, who could the Saints trade to get back into the second round because they got first of all, am I being charged for this phone call?
No.
Who can they trade because they to get back in the second round because they got Kamara last year, which wasn't bad. That was a great pick.
Yeah.
That was a great pick. But we all know that Sean Payton, he's an offensive guru. And no disrespect, offense sells tickets, which is good, and defense win games and championship.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to say it like this. It's 2 players. It's about 2 or 3 players that come in mind that will probably get him back into that second round. Number one, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you. They need a little depth on the offensive line. But Teron Armstead, he can't stay healthy. I know he'll bad luck. He's good in run blocking and pass blocking protection. That's true. He came out in 2013 draft from Pine Bluff. I remember.
So you're ready to trade Teron Armstead?
I'm just saying, why he's performing like he is right now, they should be able, even though he said, I wouldn't trade him, but I'd take it just to try to get back in the second round and see what I can get. Because there's some tackles out there, and the Saints usually can find guys in the 3rd round, 4th round, like they did Card Nix back in 2008 when he came out of Nebraska.
Yep. All right, John, what other player would you consider trade? You said you had 2 in mind, I think.
And P.J. Williams out of Florida State.
Okay. Well, thanks for the call, John. And we will discuss that now after we charge you for that phone call.
Yeah, that was it's 86 cents a minute. And then it's $1 or $1.20 for the first minute, and then 60 cents after that.
Yeah,
Call our non-toll-free hotline at 976.
I don't know about Terran Armstead, but you know what? That does make a little sense.
But and that's something too that a lot of people have also been saying too. Maybe we've talked so much about offense, but we haven't necessarily talked about bolstering the offensive line, and that's something that some people, both commentator-wise, have been talking about, maybe looking at too, because I think a lot of people were so impressed with Ryan Ramczyk last year that feeling like if you can get somebody that can replace maybe a Terran Armstead, maybe someone like that, not necessarily replace fully, but maybe someone who's younger who can help bolster that line is something that the Saints should look at too. And if there's a lineman that might be one of the best players available, that might not be a bad way to go, because then you're looking at, again, bringing a guy in on a rookie deal that could grow into being another, who knows, maybe another Zach Strief, maybe another Armstead going forward from that.
Here's what you got to think about. Okay, if you move Armstead, you do have a luxury there, in that Ryan Ramczyk has played left tackle. He could play right tackle, but you also have Andres Pete, who came into the league as a tackle prospect and has played tackle. So you do have a little bit of a luxury in that you have 3 starting caliber tackles. Now, I don't know how good Andres Pete will be at tackle. I think he's found a home at guard, but you do have that option to where maybe you could move an Armstead who's going to have some value around the league. He's got a hefty contract, but for left tackles, as left tackles go, it's not that exorbitant. And then you could maybe look at taking a guard at number 27, plug him into Pete's spot, and say you move Pete to right tackle, have Ramczyk your left tackle. That does make some sense. It's doable. It's not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
No, and I mean, it shouldn't when you're talking about a line that has dealt with shuffling in terms of having guys have to move around due to injuries, key injuries, whether you're talking about, now the now retired Zach Strief, who, God bless him, he gave everything he had to try to get back on the field this year and just was dogged by it, man. He just could not, just an unfortunate set of circumstances that just seemed to find him. But, I mean, we're kind of, now used to the idea of the line being a little bit more fluid than normal. But obviously we talk about that, but then we talk about bringing back in, Jermon Bushrod, so he's back now in the fold too. So it makes you wonder how, going forward for that, you wonder draft-wise, what are you looking to accomplish?
Well, I worry a little bit about, messing with a good thing. The offensive line is one of the strengths of the team. I don't know if I want to weaken that. So, All right, let's go to listener line before we take a top-of-the-hour break. Stan, out in New Orleans East. Happy Friday, Stan. What's going on?
Messing with a good thing. Offensive line is the strength of the team.
Turn that radio down, Stan.
Although we like hearing ourselves.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, sir? What you got?
Hey, I was just saying I heard you say something about the Superdome, and if it had the new stadium would be moved to the east or whatever, and you say New Orleans East isn't New Orleans, well, actually it is New Orleans. We pay taxes out there also, so New Orleans East is a part of New Orleans. That was just my comment.
That's fair. That's fair. And please don't take offense to that. I'm not saying that New Orleans East is New Orleans. Don't because if you look at a lot of these cities around the country that have stadiums, because I mean obviously New England, they don't play in Boston, they play in Foxborough. Not Green Bay. I'm trying to think of a few other places. Obviously the Giants and the Jets play in New York. They play in East Rutherford,
New Jersey.
Please don't take offense. I'm not saying that New Orleans East isn't New Orleans. That's not what I meant. What
Sounds
I meant,
to me like you're dissing New Orleans East.
I'm not. No, because people will probably come and try to find me from New Orleans East.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I was born and raised in New Orleans East, too. Technically, I can say I'm from that 9th Ward. Of course, I was from the fancy 9th Ward.
The fancy part of the 9th Ward area.
Dave, I haven't had any crawfish this year, but man, there's a lot of crawfishing going on in the studio right now.
Ooh, damn!
Somebody's crawfishing here. Because
I don't know if you
called out.
I don't know if you're looking at my skin, but it clearly is not doing that. So
you got
thank
called
you.
out. In New Orleans East is New Orleans.
What I meant was moving it out of the city, proper, and finding an area of land that can house it or house a big enough area, not only just for a stadium, but for other things that stadiums need to be self-sufficient. I.e., no one's building a stadium just to build a stadium anymore. You can't do that. You have to build a stadium. You have to build retail shops. You have to build hotels and other accoutrements that go along with stadiums to keep them self-sufficient other than just using public money. That's where the new scheme is. Can we find a spot here in the city of New Orleans to do that? It's going to be very hard to do that.
Man, you're backpedaling like Deion Sanders over there.
Hey, but I'm good at it, right? Prime time.
Not bad. 1 hour in the books, 1 hour to go. And when we come back in the next hour, we'll continue this conversation as Clyde turns into a large crawfish.
Yeah, that's because it's so hot in here and I get some water.
And we'll also have results of our poll, which is dispiriting right now with Peeps really bringing up the rear in the Easter candy poll.
At Duncan Holder on Twitter.
Duncan Holder. You're listening to Duncan Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
It's fine, you gotta saddle up your boys, you gotta draw a hard line. When the gun smoke settles, we'll sing a victory tune, and we'll all meet back at the local saloon. And we'll raise up our glasses against evil forces, saying, whiskey for my men, beer for my horses.
Here's today's tax tip. The burden of paying back student loans can often be daunting, but most people don't know that interest paid on the loans within a year is tax deductible. Enrolled agent Morris Armstrong says young professionals are eligible to receive a deduction based on their income.
If you have student loan interest, you're allowed to deduct up to $2,500.
Your loan servicer will send you a 1098-E if you paid at least $600 in interest. This form will show you exactly how much interest you paid throughout the year. The deduction includes interest on minimum payments and any extra payments made towards both federal and private loans. Also, qualified loans used for room and board and even transportation are able to be written off. And the deductions don't need to be itemized in order to be written off. There are certain requirements that must be met to claim this deduction. You can only deduct interest from student loans that are from a qualified source, such as an educational institution. That means loans from parents or employers are not eligible. The loan also has to be in your name. That's today's tax tip from NBC News Radio. I'm Mark Mayfield.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280.
Fox Sports trending now.
Cavaliers coach Ty Lue has missed the last 6 games on a medical leave, but according to Adrian Wojnarowski, he's planning to rejoin the team for tonight's game in Cleveland against the Pelicans. He won't coach the game, but plans to ease his way back into coaching over the course of the Cavaliers' 4-game homestand. Meanwhile, AP's Player of the Year in college hoops is Villanova guard Jalen Brunson. He received 36 of the 65 votes. Oklahoma's Trae Young received 15. Feel-good story of Thursday night belonged to the Chicago Blackhawks. They did beat the Jets 6-2, but after injuries to Chicago's starting goalie and backup goaltender, Scott Fisher, a 36-year-old accountant who also happens to be the Hawks' emergency goalie, suited up, stopped all 7 shots he faced, and was named the #1 star of the game. First 2 Major League games of the day are makeups from rainouts yesterday. Pirates versus Tigers at 1 Eastern. First pitch for the Reds, hosting the Nationals, 4:10 Eastern. I'm Deb Carson.
We are FS. Your shot at $1,000 now. Text the keyword BILLS to 200-200. You'll get a text confirming entry plus iHeartRadio info. Standard data and message rates apply. That's BILLS to 200-200.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we put a little extra heart into everything we do, like actively looking to save you money. Generics, 90-day refills, even rewards. Get a $5 Target coupon for every 10 prescriptions. On your next Target run, stop by CVS Pharmacy. We're the place with the big heart. Not valid on all prescriptions, including those purchased in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Other restrictions apply. See cvs.com/extracare-target or the pharmacy for details. CVS Pharmacy at Target. Health is everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's opponents on Man versus Train. At the crossing, we have Rick, a 175-pound frustrated man who's running late for work. And on the tracks, we have Bull, a 1 million-pound freight train that takes a mile to stop. Let's see who comes out on top.
You can't beat a train, so don't try. Stop. Trains can't. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
For over 80 years, in the heart of Mid-City, where it's always been, is a New Orleans tradition, Mandina's Restaurant. Come in for some New Orleans staples, old-style New Orleans food, atmosphere, and some of the best seafood in the city. Always New Orleans, always the best, always Mandina's.
The Troubadour Hotel New Orleans Tapestry Collection by Hilton, located in the New Orleans CBD, has luxurious finishes to complement the professional and an exquisite view of the New Orleans skyline for impressing clients and colleagues at the rooftop bar. Right now, the Troubadour Hotel is offering 1,000 Hilton Honors Points per night with their grand opening offer, valid now through April 30th. The Troubadour Hotel. Respite from the mundane. It's anything but generic. Visit them online today at thetroubadour.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Paid for by Open Jar. Attention current or retired railroad employees. If you or a loved one worked for the railroad and were diagnosed with any form of cancer, call the Railroad Employee Cancer Helpline now. You may be entitled to significant compensation. Exposure to benzene, asbestos, chemical solvents, and welding fumes can all cause cancer and are commonly found in the railroad work environment. Federal law allows employees to sue a railroad company if their injuries were caused by or contributed from the company's negligence. Injured employees can recover compensation costs for medical treatment and for the employee's lost income due to their injuries. If you or a loved one worked for the railroad and then developed cancer, call the Railroad Employee Cancer Helpline at 800-590-8915. Our network of attorneys have years of experience fighting for their clients' rights, and they're ready to fight for you. Time to file a claim is limited, so call now. 800-590-8915. That's 800-590-8915. 800-590-8915.
What is big? Big is an insatiable hunger for victory. Big is a fearsome front court with AD and Boogie. Big is packing the stands, showing your team colors, and making so much noise they give you the team ball. Come see the Pels hit the floor against Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony of the Oklahoma City Thunder, Sunday, April 1st. Visit Pelicans.com for tickets. New Orleans Pelicans. Do it big.
Amazon is looking into launching bank accounts for teens. Bloomberg says the tech giant has held discussions with JP Morgan Chase and Capital One with the idea to create a checking account type service that would make it easier for Gen Z customers to shop Amazon's site. Amazon could be trying to fill in the gap as those under 18 usually can't open bank accounts by themselves, and if they can, there's a whole lot of added on fees. Apple Music now has a section dedicated to music videos. You can find it in the Browse tab of the Music app, and once there, you'll find selections for new music videos, exclusives, curated playlists, videos by genre, and spotlights on particular artists. Twitter now lets you live stream in the future. A feature called Timestamps will allow anyone to tweet a live video that starts at the exact moment they want it to. When sharing a live video, you can use the scroll bar to select the time you want your followers to start watching. Pinterest adding human beings to its basic discovery feed, which will now show recent pins from the people and boards you're following. Tech Report, Larry Olson, NBC News Radio.
Duncan Holder, back at you on Friday, March 30th. Good Friday, Hour 2. Hour 1 in the books. We had a good time in Hour 1, touching on a variety of topics with Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, myself, Jeff Duncan. Larry Holder's off today. He's been off all week. I shouldn't say he's been off.
Yeah, he did a lot of work starting on Sunday to Tuesday.
Yes, he was down covering the NFL owners' meetings and then celebrated his wedding anniversary with his lovely wife, Joni. I don't know what they did. We'll have to probe, find out where he took her Wednesday.
Oh, well.
He got back from Orlando, and I hope he took care of Joni.
Maybe they went to Mandina's.
Oh, my gosh. And we are talking Saints, Pelicans. I want to get into a little Pelicans talk real quick, Clyde, because during the break we were talking about how crazy the Western Conference has gotten. The Pels, without even playing a game, dropped in the standings last night. They're now, are they tied for sixth, or are they just sixth alone?
Well, I mean, if you go by the NBA standings, they are in the sixth spot at 43-32. San Antonio is 44-32. They got a big win last night, and they have now leapfrogged the Pelicans and Oklahoma City, and are currently occupying the fourth spot, while Oklahoma City is also 44-32, but losing last night did not help them. So now San Antonio back to 4.
Pels play tonight in Cleveland. Tough assignment. Although they do match up fairly well with Cleveland. Cleveland got back on the right track the other night. They dropped a game down in Miami earlier this week. Tyronn Lue, the coach of the Cavs, who's been out for medical reasons, is going to rejoin the team, but he's not going to coach tonight. The Pels' big issue right now is whether or not Anthony Davis is going to shave his brow. We still don't know the update on that. I think the final poll results came in from his Twitter poll. Had a few more than our Easter candy poll. I think he had 600-something thousand responses, and it was almost dead even. I think it was 51% of the people voted, said yes, shave it. 49% said no. That's not enough for me. If I'm Anthony Davis, it's not overwhelming enough to make that crucial decision. I think he needs to keep the brow. I'm on record for that. I'm going to tell him that when I see him on Sunday.
I'm on record with saying such things.
That's crazy to want to shave your identity just on a whim. It sounded like a whim, too. Where did this come from? Has he been thinking about it? I mean, why just throw it out there on Twitter?
That's the thing. It just seems so random. It seems so out of the box and out of left field. And it was just simple, do I shave the brow? It's like, dude, there's no context. There's no backstory. There's nothing. There's just, should I shave it or not? Well, the first thing was he put it on Instagram. He put it on his Instagram story, which now on Instagram you can actually vote and make polls. So you can vote on that. Then he decided to take it to Twitter with even less. I mean, neither one had any kind of backstory. Like usually, these celebrities and people like that will usually take a video of themselves asking questions, or it's like a live and like doing an Instagram live or Snapchat or Periscope or whatever it may be, Facebook Live, just like talking to fans. Then all of a sudden you ask a wild question, and then you make a poll out of it. There wasn't even that.
I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is if James Harden just suddenly said, hey, should I shave my beard? I mean, that's his identity.
Well, it is now.
I don't even know what James Harden would look like without a beard.
I mean, we can show you a picture of what he looks like without a beard. He hasn't always had that beard. He definitely didn't have it in college, and he didn't have it most of his career in Oklahoma City.
He could shave his beard and walk anywhere in America, and nobody would recognize him. I'm convinced. That beard is what he is known for. He's cultivated. Hell, he started basically a league-wide trend with these beards because James Harden's a trendsetter. What if Jeremy Lin said, I'm going to shave my man bun? Didn't Jeremy Lin have a man bun for a while?
He's had a lot of things, man. Jeremy Lin has had a fantastically odd career, specifically when it comes to his hairstyles. He's gone slick over style. He had a man bun. He had cornrows at one point.
I don't think I remember that phase.
He had cornrows at one point, man. It was legit. It was legit.
Incredible.
And I mean, again, more power to Jeremy, man. If he wants to do it, he knows the people to do it. But yeah, Jeremy Lin has had multiple hairstyles, comparatively. Yeah.
Well, let's hope that AD comes to his senses and leaves the brow. He's going to need that. It's an intimidation factor, as I said. And he's going to need it tonight because the Cavs are difficult to beat anywhere, but they're really difficult up in Cleveland. They're in the thick of it. They're fighting for playoff seeding, and the Pels just cannot afford to drop any more games. They only have a 2-game cushion on, who is it, Denver, or who am I thinking of that's down there? Not in the Clippers. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
So here's the point I'm making. They have to go to the Clippers. I think maybe sometime next week, before the end of the season, they play in L.A. against the Clippers. That's like a 2-game swing. If they lose that game, it could vault them all the way out of the playoff race if they can not stack up more wins. I think they've got a gimme coming up against the Grizzlies here in New Orleans at the Smoothie King Center. But every other game the rest of the season is difficult. They could easily lose at home to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's been playing very well. They could easily lose the last game of the year to San Antonio, even though it's in the Smoothie King Center. And that's what I was saying to Fletcher yesterday. I think they've got to win at least one of those 2 games to get in the playoffs. They've either got to beat Oklahoma City this weekend on Easter Sunday at the Smoothie King Center, or they've got to beat San Antonio in the final game of the year. If they lose both those games, I think their chances of making the playoffs are going to be in jeopardy because they've got to play at Golden State. They've got to play at the Clippers, who are fighting to get into the playoffs, so you're going to get their best shot. And then you got a difficult game tonight in Cleveland. The only gimme I see the rest of the way is that home game against the Grizzlies.
Yeah, and so Jeff and I have been talking about this a lot over the course of the last week, and I found a website. It's called playoffstats.com, and it does a really, really good job of really highlighting how crazy this playoff scenario system is for the NBA right now, specifically in the Western Conference, where if you look at the Pelicans, so the Pelicans still, the only 2 seeds obviously the Pelicans can't get are the number 1, number 2 seeds. But they do have a very slim possibility of getting to the 3, but they don't control their own destiny. And it does percentages based on the likelihood of where the Pelicans can finish 1 through 8, and then the potential or possibility of the Pelicans not making the playoffs. Right now, according to this website, the Pelicans have their highest percentage seeding that they could get realistically is the 4 at 22%. 5 is 20%, 6 is 17%, the 7 is 13%, and the 8th seed is 14%. Still, though, the Pelicans have an 11% chance of missing the playoffs. That is the second highest percentage, only next to the Jazz, who are currently in the 8.
Well, I did forget they do play the Phoenix Suns, who are in full-scale tank mode, so that's another gimme. I neglected to mention that. I think they've got 2 wins you can almost chalk up. I mean, I know you always say, oh, every game's going to be difficult. I agree to some degree, but I think they've got 2 wins you can kind of count on. I think they've got to get 3 somehow to ensure making the playoffs the rest of the way. They cannot just win 2 more games, or they really have a chance of missing the playoffs altogether because it's so competitive right now. You still got basically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams fighting for 6 spots. And it looks clearly to me that Portland has kind of distanced itself from the rest of the pack. I mean, they've got a 2.5 game lead for that number 3 seed. You got to think they're going to hang on. They're very difficult to beat at home.
Yeah.
So to me, I think it looks like the Pelicans are battling 4, 5, and 6. That's what they need to land. They need somehow to get the 4, 5, or 6 seed. You don't want to be opposite the Rockets or the Warriors at 7 or 8.
Okay, so go and tagging on that. So the best case scenario, obviously, if they win the next game, it increases their percentage of landing the 4 seed to 32%. It increases their chance of landing the 5, the Pelicans, to 24%, and then the likelihood of them missing the playoff decreases to 5%. But this is also based off the current standings. But if they lose the next game, their chances of landing the 5 through 8 are its best chances, or the ones that are most likely at 18, 16, and 17% from playoff spots 5 through 8. But the 3 spot goes down to 1%. The 4 spot goes down to 15% likelihood, and the chance of missing the playoffs goes from 11%, which is currently right now, to 16. So let's look at that. If they win this game tonight, the chance of them missing the playoff drops to 5%. If they lose, there's still a 16% chance they could miss the playoffs. That's how tenuous the situation is. And we're talking about a best case scenario of obviously the Pelicans winning, the Jazz losing, and the Clippers losing also in the same breath tonight.
Well, the Cavs are 25-11 at home this year. They've won 4 in a row at home, Quicken Loans Arena. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to pull that off. Maybe they will, but they haven't been that successful up in Cleveland. They've beaten Cleveland here, but going up there has been a little bit more difficult, for obvious reasons. And Cleveland is obviously fighting for position in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see how that game plays out. Critical game for the Pels on the schedule. Then they come back here for another critical game Sunday against Oklahoma City, who dropped a game last night, as you mentioned, to San Antonio. Every game you lose at this point, it can kind of mean 1 or 2 spots in the Western Conference standings. And right now the Pels, right in the thick of it, have a chance to make the playoffs for only the second time with Dell Demps as the general manager. And he I think you have to give him credit for putting this thing together and really overcoming some adversity with the loss of DeMarcus Cousins. All right, let's take our first break here in the second hour. When we come back, we'll switch gears, talk a little NFL draft, talk some New Orleans Saints. I want to get back into that question about trade possibilities. Who would you trade on the Saints roster? We've already had Mark Ingram mentioned, Terron Armstead, P.J. Williams, although I'm not sure who would want P.J. Williams. But who else might be on the trade block for the New Orleans Saints? You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stick with us.
When he came across this young man sawing on a fiddle and playing it hot, and the devil jumped up on a hickory stump and said, boy, let me tell you what. I guess you didn't know it, but I'm a fiddle player too.
Derek Smalls, formerly of the band, formerly known as Spinal Tap, brings lukewarm water live to the Sanger Theater Saturday, April 14th. Win your way in at sports1280.com/contests.
You know, before Boost, our phone bill was obscene. I had to hide it from the kids. So, we switched to Boost and got lines for the whole family with unlimited gigs for a much more family-friendly price. It's nice to have a phone bill that doesn't require parental controls.
Your family deserves better than scary phone bills. Get 4 lines for only $25 per line, each with unlimited gigs. Plus, get up to 4 free Samsung J7 perks with 6 months of Hulu, where you can stream all the shows everyone is talking about. All on the super reliable and super fast nationwide network. Boost makes it easy to switch. Switching makes it easy to save.
Offer ends 4/16/18. First lines $100 a month. Lines 2 to 4 free. Requires 1 line to port in. Includes unlimited talk, text, and data with video streams at up to 480p. Music at up to 500 kilobits per second. Gaming up to 2 megabits per second. Data deprioritization during congestion. Brief runs require port-in, purchase of eligible device, and activation on plans $50 or higher. Includes 6 months of access to 1 Hulu limited commercial plan per eligible line for new Hulu subscribers only. Additional restrictions apply. Terms at www.boostmobile.com/Hulu-terms. Coverage and offers not available everywhere. Restrictions apply.
All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free. That's iHeartRadio. All your favorite music.
This is Tyler from Theory of a Dead Man.
This is Jared from 30 Seconds to Mars. This is iHeartRadio.
And iHeartRadio is all your favorite stations. Thousands of the best radio stations from across the country. Plus, iHeartRadio is free. Download the app today. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free.
iHeartRadio.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-500-8121. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-500-8121. That's 1-800-500-8121. 1-800-500-8121.
Mama always told me that I should play nice. She didn't know you and she gave me that advice. I'm through with you.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier. We are talking New Orleans Saints trade talk. No, nothing has been in the works, or at least nothing has happened, but we're just kind of having a little fun speculating. That's what we do here. And look, there's some more news on the Odell Beckham Jr. trade front. That looks like that might actually happen. At one time, I thought it might just be idle speculation, but it sounds like the Giants are listening to offers. The LA Rams have reportedly already contacted them, and the asking price, Clyde, that we're hearing reportedly was 2 first-round draft picks. That's not what they're going to settle for.
No.
They're not going to get 2 first-round draft picks. That's what you throw out and shoot for the moon, right? You ask high, and then you settle. I think a first-round pick and a third-round pick would do it. And that's similar to what Brandon Cooks, the deal the Saints did with New England for Brandon Cooks. They got a low first-round pick, and then I think they swapped mid-round picks down the road. Would you trade the Saints number 27 and a third-rounder for Odell Beckham Jr.?
You know, after our talk with Josh Katzenstein earlier this week,
well, he was high on
I wasn't.
OBJ.
I don't know. I wasn't sold, but then I'm not gonna lie to you. I think he may have swung me. I would have said no earlier, but after hearing him talk about it and after hearing him think about it for a little bit, I really think that it might end up being one of the better moves that the Saints could possibly make if we're living in fantasy land.
How do you pay for him, though? That's the problem. It's
when
not
you're looking at paying for him,
done in a vacuum. You got to pay the guy.
So, but again, are we talking? Okay, so hypothetically speaking, who can afford Odell Beckham Jr. right now?
A lot of teams can. A lot of teams can afford him. The problem is the Saints have $20-something million allocated to an elite quarterback. So teams that have elite quarterbacks inherently are at a disadvantage because they're paying a huge chunk of their salary cap. But then you also going to have to pay Mike Thomas. That's the complicating factors. You already have another number one receiver on the roster who's going to get paid. Now here's what you could do. You could do it for 2 years. You could bring Odell Beckham Jr. in, pay him, but 2 years from now, you got to move somebody. You either got to let Mike Thomas walk in free agency, or you pay Mike Thomas and you get rid of Odell Beckham Jr. You could do a 2-year rental. That's pretty good 2-year.
That's a pretty good 2-year rental,
and that would make some sense to me timing wise because let's face it, Breeze isn't going to be here forever.
No,
and you'd basically just be saying, we're going for it these next 2 years.
Yeah.
We're going to have an awesome offense. We're going to have Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Thomas, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara. What are you going to do about the rest of the NFL?
Yeah.
And we're going for it with Drew Brees here the next 2 years, and then we might blow it up. And by then, if you win another Super Bowl, it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it. And as one of our YouTubers said on here, Jared Culbertson, no, that's actually the wrong one. Is basically saying, from Zia 1117, who are the Rams not going for at this point? Because I mean, it's true. Because if the Rams are in the same boat, or if they're in the same process of looking at adding as many of these high name guys, they're going to have to run into the same problem too. Like you've got Akeem Talib, you got Marcus Peters, you got to pay those two, you got to pay Aaron Donald, you got to pay all these guys. And not all of them are going to get that money. You just paid Sue a 1-year, $14 million contract, trying to get OBJ. I mean, you name it. Like the Rams are going for it too, and that's where it kind of, for me, lines up with the question that you have to ask yourself is, are you willing, as someone else also pointed out, it could potentially, all these moves blow up in an epic fashion. There's no guarantees in this league. There are no guarantees whatsoever in the NFL. And it's taking a risk, and it's taking a big, big risk in the short term and saying, damn the consequences, damn the torpedoes on the long term.
Well, I think the Rams, Les Snead, the general manager out there, is basically showing full confidence in his young head coach, Sean McVay, that he can control that locker room. And it's no different than, I think, Mickey Loomis and the confidence he has in Sean Payton. Sean Payton can lead a group of men. He has a great presence. It's one of his strengths as a head coach. And Sean McVay, even though he's very young, he has the full confidence, I think, of his general manager that he can control this group of collection of characters. You're right. They brought in some big personalities. Ndamukong Suh, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters.
Yeah.
All those guys have reputations off the field, but they're counting on McVay and Wade Phillips, a veteran defensive coordinator who's been in the league a long time, greatly respected. They're counting on those guys, keeping it under control, and they're going for it. And I think it's interesting also, Clyde, that the Rams, I'm not sure they would have been doing this if they stayed in St. Louis. I think moving to L.A. has energized that franchise. Obviously, bringing in McVay was a home run. They're building an epic stadium that's going to be an incredible model for the rest of the NFL to follow, but it's also going to generate incredible revenue.
Yeah, it is.
For that team. You got Stan Kroenke, one of the richest men in the world, as the owner.
Yeah.
Deep pockets all around. The NFL's putting their media company on that campus. Trust me, they're going to have the NFL draft there very soon. It might be permanently there. It's basically going to become NFL West. The headquarters right now, Park Avenue in New York City, they will have basically a West Coast branch.
Yeah. For that NFL Network, NFL Network, NFL Films.
So this is going to become, I think, a premier franchise in the NFL. And
which is exactly what they want.
Exactly what they wanted when they moved that team from St. Louis out there. And if you can bring in all these big headliner acts and make a Super Bowl run in L.A.,
that's
big time. And I think that's kind of the plan. So I don't put it past Sean McVay. I was really impressed with what he did a year ago. I thought their game plan against the Saints out there at the Coliseum was the best game plan that anybody had against New Orleans all year on both sides of the ball. I thought they kind of outcoached Sean Payton and his staff, and that's saying something because Payton and his staff are very good and usually don't get out X and O on game day.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's not a surprise given that this year was the Rams' year. Clearly going from worst to first, not only going from worst to first, but going from a team that looked like it couldn't score to a team that looked like you couldn't stop them from scoring. You had Todd Gurley. Obviously, you had Josh Goff do exactly what he needed to do. Jason Goff. You had him going and doing exactly what he needed to do as a quarterback. So you had Goff running on all cylinders. You had Todd Gurley. You had an very, very dominating style defense, and they took hold of a division that you were losing the Seahawks. The Seahawks were clearly coming back, and now San Francisco is clearly trying to move up. And then you have Arizona, who took on Adrian Peterson, and his contract, and losing quarterbacks and not having a stable system, and literally only having Larry Fitzgerald, and that's it. So the Rams struck gold and struck while the iron was hot in that division. Now the question is, as a lot of what I'm seeing right now is, how can they sustain that? Will these moves help them continue to have not only stability, but to absolutely have a chokehold on that division for as long as they can, while Seattle tries to regroup, Arizona tries to regroup, and their biggest challengers next year might just be the San Francisco 49ers.
I love me some Jimmy Garoppolo. I have a man crush. I'm admit it. I'm on record. Jimmy G is my man, and look what he did. He came in there and won. He won 5-0.
He went 5-0. They would have gone. They would have gone 6-0, but he did not start the sixth game because they won their last 5, and he started all 5. He came in during the first game he saw, but they still lost. So literally, he had a hand in winning 5 straight games and could have won them a 6 if he had started that game.
Well, Todd Gurley, speaking of the Rams, has gone on record yesterday. He was quoted as saying, "Oh yeah, that's my guy." Talking about Odell Beckham Jr. Of course, both players played in the SEC. I probably played at the same time in the SEC.
Yeah,
Todd Gurley at Georgia, Odell Beckham Jr. at LSU, of course. And he's saying, bring him on. He's trying to recruit Odell Beckham Jr. as if the Rams need any more talent. That's a scary thought. Add that receiver to that young receiving core they have out there with Jared Goff, by the way. I called him Jason Goff. I'm an idiot.
It's okay.
I'm an idiot.
I called him Josh. So
yeah,
one of those
idiots. I need Peeps. That would get my brain straight.
No, it wouldn't. That would actually that wouldn't do any good for you. I can tell you that now.
But the Rams are definitely a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, I think the rest of that division's
got question marks. Yeah,
Seattle looks
and they know
like they're trending downward.
Yeah,
Legion
of home.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing out there. I agree with you. I think San Francisco could be that team that makes the playoffs next year.
The Rams,
no one's picking to make it.
Yeah, the Rams aren't competing with the NFC West. The Rams are competing against the Packers, the Eagles, and the Vikings, and the Saints, and the Falcons.
All right, let's take a break. Continue this discussion on the other side of the commercial break, and we will talk a little more about the Final Four, which takes place this weekend. We'll analyze those 2 games, get your thoughts on that as well. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us.
And I pray someday that you will love me only.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by Wholesale Auto Group.
Plenty of sunshine out there, just a few clouds around. We are going to be a bit cooler than it's been the last several days behind our front. We're starting off the morning with temperatures that were in the 50s and lower 60s, rising into the middle 70s by later on in the afternoon. The rest of the weekend looks just as nice. I'm meteorologist Nicandra Norwood for Bounce TV and WVUE Fox.
Hi, this is Bob with Wholesale Auto Group, the pre-owned car, truck, and SUV center on Veterans Boulevard, just past the airport. At Wholesale Auto Group, all we sell are great pre-owned vehicles. Shop online now at 123getauto.com, 123getauto.com.
Message and data rates may apply.
Hi, I'm Frank Thomas, the Big Hurt. After I left baseball, I just couldn't stay in shape like I used to. Turns out, Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to get into shape. So I got back into the game with Nugenics. I'm feeling stronger with a lot more energy and drive. You want to get back into shape? Get Nugenics. All you have to do is send one simple text.
Frank's right. Just text TIP to 321321 to get a complimentary bottle of award-winning Nugenics, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Its unique man-boosting formula is powered by Testofen, a patented key ingredient clinically researched to help a man feel stronger, leaner, more energetic, and more passionate.
And guys, she'll like the difference too.
Nugenics samples are not available in stores. To get your complimentary bottle, text TIP to 321321. That's TIP to 321321.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's opponents on Man versus Train. At the crossing, we have Rick, a 175-pound frustrated man who's running late for work. And on the tracks, we have Bull, a 1,000,000-pound freight train that takes a mile to stop. Let's see who comes out on top.
You can't beat a train, so don't try. Stop. Trains can't. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
A very exciting Major League Baseball opening day is in the books. The White Sox, Matt Davidson, becoming just the 4th player in Major League history to hit 3 home runs on opening day. Chicago outslugged the Royals 14-7 at Kauffman Stadium.
It's a great start, and, just want to keep it going. And
north of the border, Giancarlo Stanton homered twice in his Yankees debut as New York cruised past the Blue Jays 6-1.
First one out of the way early, and, just can stop worrying about it. So it was a great day.
In Atlanta, Nick Markakis smacked a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 9th for a walk-off 8-5 comeback win over the Phillies at SunTrust Park. The Rays rally to beat the Red Sox 6-4 at Tropicana Field. Brewers sneak past the Padres 2-1 in 12 innings. Giants blank the Dodgers 1-0. In the NBA, Sixers All-Star center Joel Embiid will need surgery for an orbital fracture. He's expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks as he also recovers from a concussion. That's sports. Jake Corwin, NBC News Radio.
The uncensored talk about your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Duncan Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier. Let's talk a little Final Four. We haven't really gotten into that much this week. I'm a huge college basketball fan, but this year, kind of a crazy Final Four. You've got 3 Blue Bloods. Villanova, the defending champions. They'll be playing Kansas, a storied program, much to Herbie Teope's dismay. Kansas will be playing against Villanova on one side of the bracket. The other side has Michigan, another, power program from the Big Ten, against Cinderella, the Loyola Chicago Ramblers, and Sister Jean, who has a bobblehead that I want badly. Now, here's an interesting little nugget for you, Clyde. I know you love these things.
I do.
They are the number 11 seed, right? The Loyola Ramblers, trying to become the first number 11 seed to win it all. Did you know the first number 11 seed to make the Final Four? Did you know who that was? You're not.
George Mason?
No. LSU Tigers.
Oh,
1986.
Yeah. Right.
Ricky Blanton.
Yes.
That crew. And you know who they lost to that year, by the way? Louisville. Just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
But the point is,
they are the 4th. They're the 4th number 11 seed to make the Final Four. Correct.
Correct. The first one though was LSU in 1986. So a good little.
I forgot about that team.
Good little bit of trivia for you. And look, all of America is going to be pulling for Loyola. I mean, there's no doubt. That's what makes the tournament special. And we've got the Final Four coming here in 2022. When I was doing that Superdome renovation story, one of the keys was trying to get this ball rolling on a renovation. If they do indeed decide to do it, they want to have it pretty much done by the 2022 Final Four. They would start the work. If everything goes well and they get approval and everybody decides to go forward with this, they would start it after the 2020 college football playoff championship game.
Right.
That's when it would start. The Saints wouldn't have any really impact. They wouldn't be impacted because these renovations would all take place in the off season, starting in 2020, and then they would shut it down when the football season started. Then they kick it back up after the season's over. trying to get it all done by the 2022 Final Four.
Yeah, which is interesting though, because I mean, I would assume that I haven't even looked, but they're playing the this year's championship. They're playing in the Alamo Dome.
Yes.
Okay, so they're playing not playing it at the AT&T Center, which is where the Spurs play. So they're hosting in the Alamo Dome, which is not a surprise. And that's what the NCAA is going to. I mean, outside of having basically a rotational basis with playing it in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, because Indianapolis, which is the home of the NCAA, and among most writers would probably say that Indianapolis is one of the more friendlier cities for big events such as the Super Bowl, things like that, NCAA March Madness Final Four, because of its well connectivity and walking distance to most things. But yeah, that's not a surprise. But man, this is going to be a really good weekend. Everybody's looking forward to Sister Jean. In fact, Sister Jean had had her own press conference today.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it was packed. Saw a picture of it on Twitter. It was amazing. So Sister Jean got to talk. They said, I guess someone asked her about she's going to get a bobblehead made out of her, and she said the company, after they make the bobblehead, she'll probably just quit because they won't be able to top it. So I'm digging what Sister Jean's putting down, man. Digging what Sister Jean's putting down.
How do we get one of those bobbleheads?
I think it's going to be a hot commodity. I don't know if we're going to get our hands on one, Jeff.
All right, the women's Final Four starts tonight.
Yes.
With the mighty Louisville Cardinals playing Mississippi State. And I can say our because I graduated from Louisville. They've been our nemesis. Mississippi State ended our football season in the Belk Bowl, I believe it was. I can't remember what bowl we were in. No, it's the one in Jacksonville. Which
the Tax Slayer.
Yeah, we were in the Tax Slayer Bowl, and they eliminated us pretty handily there. Lamar Jackson didn't have a great game. And then they come around in men's basketball, our basically lost season, end our season in the NIT in the Yum Center, and now
they didn't even win and unfortunately I'm pretty sure Penn State won the NIT final yesterday.
They did.
You can't even say you lost a team. Yeah, they're like an NIT dynasty. They can't get in the NCAA tournament, but boy, they run the NIT.
No, I know. Well, they have a chance. I think they're probably favored tonight. Am I wrong? Or who's favored in that Louisville Mississippi State game? Who would you say?
State, absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
And then the other semifinal, the mighty UConn Huskies against Notre Dame. Look at these teams, Clyde. As it reaffirms my point, there's no parity in women's basketball. UConn's 36-0, Mississippi State's 36-1, Louisville's 36-2, and Notre Dame's 33-3.
Yeah.
So you got four powers.
And you know what's crazy about that is that, do you know one of Notre Dame's losses? UConn. One of Louisville's losses? UConn. Mississippi State's loss? South Carolina, who UConn beat to get to the Final Four.
Drubbed, I might add.
Yeah,
got
waxed.
So these should be good games.
No, they're going to be really good. Notre Dame,
best teams in the country, probably.
Absolutely. Notre Dame actually had a 6-point lead over on UConn in their meeting this year, which was a part of the Jimmy V Classic. It was a fantastic game. It's going to be a fantastic game. That one is the marquee game. That one is at 6. That one is at 7:00 tonight. The Louisville Mississippi State game is at 5 tonight in Columbus. So, by all accounts, for me, State is going to not handily beat Louisville, but they're going to beat Louisville. Sorry, Jeff. Hate to tell you.
Who asked you for a prediction?
Hate to tell you, Jeff. Sorry.
See about that.
State. Louisville doesn't have an answer for McGowan. They're not going to have an answer for Victoria Vivians. They're not going to have an answer for Morgan Williams. Granted, again, Louisville's a fantastic team. They have played well all year. They're a quality team. I will say that Louisville has a quality
thank you,
team.
Clyde. They're only 36-2. I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, basically ran roughshod on the ACC. So that's huge. But State just has a little bit more. I actually think again, my prediction fully on is that Notre Dame will not beat UConn. It will be UConn State for the national championship. State will beat UConn again to win the national championship and end another UConn perfectly unblemished season.
I love how you're making these bold proclamations.
And we'll be able to see on. We'll be able to talk on Monday about it.
All right. Well, look, let's take one more break, and when we come back, we'll switch gears and go back to some Saints talk. And again, I want to go back to some NFL draft talk because I read something earlier today that kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit about the Saints' possibilities in the draft. That's called a tease, Clyde.
Oh, interesting.
And we'll get to that.
I'm intrigued.
After this break, Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app.
to southern Alabama with the guitars jamming, that's where we're headed. Straight up to Butte in Montana singing, Lord, I was born a rambling man. California to Oregon, even New York City got one or two hillbillies ready to hit the road.
A 4-foot by 6-foot box of dirt lies in wait, lined with chalk, undisturbed. For now, the Cakes are ready to dig back in for another summer on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Mr. Red's Seafood and Italian Restaurant, serving the best fried chicken in town, fresh Louisiana seafood, as well as delicious Italian dishes. Try our daily chef specials or an overstuffed po' boy. Open Monday through Saturday from 11 a.m. till 9 p.m. with 2 locations to serve you. In Bucktown at 1001 Live Oak between Bonneville and Lake Avenue, or in Kenner at 910 West Esplanade at Chateau Boulevard. Let Mr. Ed's cater your next event. Mr. Ed's Seafood and Italian Restaurant. 2 great locations, 1 great menu. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House, now open in the quarter 7 days a week at 512 Bienville.
When they say you'll never make it on your own, that's the time to really shine. Like Camila Cabello, everyone loves a comeback. Now dry hair can have one too, with new Elvive Extraordinary Oil Hair Treatment from L'Oreal Paris. In just one use, Elvive revives dry hair, leaving it healthier, shinier, and 10 times more nourished. Revive dry hair with Elvive Extraordinary Oil Hair Treatment. Discover the complete line of Elvive hair care from L'Oreal Paris at your local retailer today. Because you're worth it.
The WWE and the World War II Museum are hosting a veteran career panel and networking event Tuesday, April 3rd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. This event is free and open to all U.S. military members, veterans, and their spouses. This free veteran career panel and networking event with Hire Heroes USA will consist of career coaching, resume writing, and interview techniques. To register for this event, go to eventbrite.com and search WWE's Veteran Career Panel and Networking Event. That's Tuesday, April 3rd from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the World War II Museum.
Here's today's tax tip. The burden of paying back student loans can often be daunting, but most people don't know that interest paid on the loans within a year is tax deductible. Enrolled agent Morris Armstrong says young professionals are eligible to receive a deduction based on their income.
If you have student loan interest, you're allowed to deduct up to $2,500.
Your loan servicer will send you a 1098-E if you paid at least $600 in interest. This form will show you exactly how much interest you paid throughout the year. The deduction includes interest on minimum payments and any extra payments made towards both federal and private loans. Also, qualified loans used for room and board and even transportation are able to be written off. And the deductions don't need to be itemized in order to be written off. There are certain requirements that must be met to claim this deduction. You can only deduct interest from student loans that are from a qualified source, such as an educational institution. That means loans from parents or employers are not eligible. The loan also has to be in your name. That's today's tax tip from NBC News Radio. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Right now, there's a girl in India who has dreams bigger than her village. Right now, there's an elder in Guatemala who dreams of a life of greater dignity and less loneliness. You can help change the future of one person in a single moment. Begin the change at unbound.org.
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdane, talking NFL draft, which is going to be here before you know it. I mean, it always sneaks up on you. Is the first week of May this year? It is, right?
It's also the first weekend of Jazz Fest.
Or is it the last week of?
It's the last week of April, basically going into the first week of May. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same weekend as the Zurich Classic. Always a hectic time in town for the local sports media.
Yeah.
But always a busy time, also a fun time because there's a lot of speculation. And I read something, Clyde, that kind of raised my eyebrows about the Saints possibly have an interest in Deshaun Hand, the defensive lineman, defensive end from Alabama. And the reason it raised my eyebrows is because Deshaun Hand is a second-round prospect. So would the Saints, kind of feeding into what Adam said earlier, would it behoove them to trade down these players that they like at the position? Sam Hubbard, Deshaun Hand, maybe even Arden Key. Who knows? He's now looked at as a second-round draft pick. Certainly has the talent to fill their pass rush needs, I think, especially on third down and in passing situations. Another second-round draft pick prospect. Would it behoove them to trade down, get into the second round, get the player they want, and pick up some picks. Maybe even they could trade for a future draft pick and move down because they don't really need the picks this year, as we've said. Would that be the best move for this team?
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's the concept for me is what gives you the most value and the most maximum production for said pick. And I think what's interesting, more or less about this draft, more than any other ones that I've either read or watched or at least been involved in, is how little, and I guess not little, but how few people think that picking so low in the draft is almost worth saying, hey, we have this hole here. We've got this hole in this draft where, you'd like to have one pick in each, in each draft, but we have this hole here. And, looking at it, I think I'd rather fill that hole right there, i.e. that hole being the second round, rather than maybe be in this first round with the rest of these guys that every other quality NFL team is going to be like, maybe this isn't where we want to be. Maybe we just kind of want to get out of it and not have all the pressure of like having to pick the guy. Because, that's the thing, right? That's what the first round does. The first round is drama. The first round is surprise and intrigue and who's going to go number one, how many quarterbacks are going to be taken, who's going to be the first running back, who's going to be the first surprise steal, blah, blah, blah. All these things. And some teams are like, really don't have desire to be around that. But, hey, look, this guy that we're looking at that other people are like, we'll pass on in the second round, that's where we want to be. That's where we want to get to. That second round is where we really see us being able to maximize that spot to the best of our ability for our team going forward.
Well, I just think people would love to get up in the top 10 and get some big name prospect, but that's just not feasible with the draft collateral the Saints have at their disposal. To move up that high from 27 would be almost impossible. They'd have to probably trade one of their future high picks, future round picks, and then you're starting to, jeopardize your future chances of building your roster. So I don't think the Saints are going to be able to go up. They might be able to go up a few spots, but making a big vault up to get one of these pass rushers, the board just doesn't look like it's going to fall their way this year, like it did last year where it fell perfectly for them. Marshawn Lattimore dropped right in their lap. It's exactly what they needed at number 11 because every other team ahead of them was taking quarterbacks or whatever, running backs, and it allowed the Saints to get the player they wanted. From year to year, the draft changes. Circumstances changes, board changes, needs change, and right now the Saints' needs are not marrying up very well with the prospects and where they're aligned in this draft class. It's not a great draft class. It's not one like we had a year ago. It was star-studded. When you can get a guy like Marshawn Lattimore at number 11, that's saying something. This guy's a lockdown corner. In other years, he might have been a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, there were a lot of good picks that went ahead of him. It wasn't like people blew it. Some players obviously were taken. It was John Ross. Did he go ahead of? I think he went ahead of Marshawn Lattimore in the draft. That was a mistake. Obviously, the Bengals should not have ventured out on that.
What a surprise. We're talking about the Bengals.
I know, but the point is there was a lot of very good players.
Yep.
Leonard Fournette, obviously, oh gosh, I'm blanking on what's the kid's name, the number 1 pick that went A&M to the Browns.
Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Myles Garrett obviously had a great year, even though I know it was kind of banged up a little bit, but a lot of good draft picks in this past draft. I'm not sure we're going to have that same kind of impact this year. Even these quarterbacks, all these top, the big 4 quarterbacks, I'm not sure any of those guys are going to light the league on fire right away.
No, absolutely not. And if you want to use last year's draft as a little bit of a guide of what you're talking about, if you look at your picks, Myles Garrett, defensive end, Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas, Leonard Fournette, Corey Davis, Jamal Adams, Mike Williams, Christian McCaffrey, John Ross, and Patrick Mahomes. Those were your 10 picks in the draft last year. So outside of two quarterbacks, a couple wide receivers, a few running backs, you had a defensive end go number 1, You had a safety go number 6. And you had a defensive end go number 3.
Well, here's another stat that I saw that I read. Those 3 receivers that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
John Ross, Corey Davis. Who was the other one?
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams combined did not catch a touchdown pass a year ago. All of them top 10 picks. And yet the Saints get Alvin Kamara, who produces 14 touchdowns
14
as a rookie. They get him in the 3rd round.
Yeah. And then, after Marshawn Lattimore, Texans may or may not have gotten a pretty decent pick in Sean Watson. I mean, that may or may not have been a good pick. But I think that's the level of discourse among trying to understand a draft and trying to understand a team's need for the draft, where I think it really gets so varied because, we're talking about after that. So after those top 10, you had Marshawn Lattimore at 11, again, Defensive Rookie of the Year. Sean Watson, who is going to pretty much resurrect the Texans. You had Hassan Riddick, Derek Barnett, Malik Hooker, Marlon Humphrey, Jonathan Allen, Adoree Jackson, O.J. Howard, and Garrett Bowles in that next 10. So you got that top 10, you got that next 10, and then after that, you're talking about guys like Jared Davis, Charles Harris, Evan Ingram, Gron Conley, Jabril Peppers, Takaris McKinley, and Tre'Davious White. That's those next 7 picks after that. So that's where the Saints are looking. That's where we're all, I think, looking when in terms of like what the Saints need to do. Because at this pick last year, the Bills went with Tre'Davious White. Again, the runner-up to Marshawn Lattimore in Defensive Rookie of the Year, who had a fantastic year for the Bills.
Yeah, but again, that was a deeper draft than what we had this year. And we've talked about in the program before, the Saints really dodged a bullet in the Reuben Foster pursuit. They were interested. Remember, they were on the phone with Reuben Foster when the 49ers selected him at number 31. And that surprises me a little bit because he had some red flags. I told Larry I would not have touched Reuben Foster. There were too many red flags for me. And now the 49ers are already talking about they may cut loose Reuben Foster 1 year into his tenure because he's already had so many problems off the field. That's not what you want to be dealing with when you invest a first-round draft pick in a player. Foster's a great talent, no doubt about it, but he's already having problems off the field. I think he's had 2 incidents already. So the Saints probably dodged a bullet there. They 1 pick later kind of settle. And that's not the right word, probably. Settled taking Ryan Ramczyk when they really wanted to bolster their defense. They took the best player on the board. Look how it played out for them. Ramczyk ends up starting the entire season and was overlooked when compared to Marshawn Lattimore and Alvin Kamara, but he had just as good a season overall, and now they have a strength. They have basically 3 players that can start at tackle, and it allowed them, frankly, to survive the loss of Zach Strief.
Yeah, clearly Ryan Ramczyk, who really, for me, I think, cemented how strong this draft class was just by him being able to go out and do his job. And I know, the big uglies up front don't get as much love as they rightfully deserve, but clearly it's almost as if you don't know how much of a home run hitter you have until like you really start to take notice late in the season. And it just seemed like we were talking about Ryan Ramczyk so much at the latter part of the season because we were talking about so much shuffling in front of him or around him or to his, to his right and his left of how he's there, he is solid there, but everything else around him is not. But he's still the solid piece, and you're like, man, remember when we got him at 32 and we didn't take that guy in front of him who, by all accounts, will have a very, very choppy future for his career? I just saw a story where obviously they're looking at the 49ers looking at how they move forward with him, but clearly he's going to have some issues in the legal courts to deal with first.
I think historically offensive linemen have the lowest bust rate of first-round draft picks, and we've seen that historically with the Saints. All right, on to more pressing matters. Do you have the results of our poll real quick before we sign off here? I got to find out. Did Peeps make a rally on our Easter candy A poll. We asked
No!
people. They didn't?
It didn't. The poll is ending right now. It was very simple. Obviously, it's Good Friday. What's the best Easter candy? That simple. Winning by a landslide. 58% of the votes, Reese's Eggs. 21% Cadbury Mini Eggs. 15% said other. 6% said Peeps. So obviously, the world is continuing to spin on its axis the right way for another day.
I'm concerned about the future of our country and our world and the Duncan Holder world. That's crazy. Peeps. People get out there and please vote for the Peeps.
No, I ended the poll at noon, so we're done. So we win. Jeff takes another big ol' L.
All right, that's it for our Duncan Holder program this week. We'll be back next week. Larry Holder will be back joining us. He'll be back in the saddle, and we will welcome him back with his longer hair, and I'm sure he's got a fresh tan from Florida. And if you didn't get a chance to catch the program, you can always find it on NOLA.com. You can find it on the iHeartRadio app. Our podcasts are always posted each day there. And we will once again be back here on Monday. Everybody have a great Easter weekend. We'll see you back on Monday. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Have a great weekend.
But the good news